Welcome back to another episode of TV Roulette here on McGTV. So let's see what we end up watching at random here today, thanks to Netflix Roulette. Oh, please be Animaniacs. Please be Animaniacs. Doc Martin. Okay. 6 series with a roll of the dice. Let me see which series I'm going to be visiting first. Series 2, and that has 9 episodes, so I'll be using 2 die for this. And let's see. Episode 4, titled Aromatherapy. So, Series 2, Episode 4 of Doc Martin. Crippled by a sudden fear of blood, a curmudgeonly surgeon leaves his city practice to be a country doc in a seaside village populated by eccentrics. Basically, if House and Twin Peaks met, I guess. I'll be right back, guys, and give you my 2 cents on this show. Possible alcoholism equals laughter. Yeah, I had never seen an episode of this show before. I didn't even know this was a show. How I'd go about describing it to someone like myself, a novice in all things Doc Martin, a British version of House meets Faulty Towers meets Monk? As if House had all of the little OCD hang-ups of Monk, because apparently Doc Martin is standoffishness when it comes to blood, and he does kind of a good job with all like the very germophobic stuff, I guess. Like when he's taking blood from a woman's arm, he's like, and like when one of his patients comes in who smells terrible, and every like reaction he has to this guy's movements, or when he's downwind of this old man, he's like, so. I mean, cool, he's playing up the eccentricities of the character, I guess, even though this character really isn't that eccentric and actually seems to be the most normal person on this island of people. But it's got a lot of staples of House. He's got like a best friend who is also a hopeless romantic who just happens to be the PC or constable of this little village, who apparently in this episode takes a liking to this lady who came to town looking to get her driver's license, so that's his job too, is to teach her how to drive. The main crux, or the main plot of the show, revolves around this local radio host. Everyone thinks she has a drinking problem, and then there's a big House-like revelation of it's not alcoholism, it's lupus. No, not lupus. It's diabetes, apparently. But this is touted as a comedy drama. It had a couple of humorous moments here or there, but this seems very, very solemn at times. Like, the radio host's perceived alcoholism is actually kind of depressing to watch. A little bit, like, as her friends and the constable and the doctor all approach her about this issue, and she's just very standoffish and acts like, yeah, she does have an alcohol problem, but it's later revealed that she doesn't. It's just kind of sad, really, and even, like, the constable missing out on his opportunity with the lady who wants to get her license. Even that had kind of you'd think that'd be played up for kind of like a resounding like wah wah type of thing, but no, it was actually kind of depressing as he like calls up the restaurant to cancel his reservation. There's like very dramatic, sorrowful music playing over it. I guess the main source of comedy came from the old man subplot, in which this old man smells a lot and he keeps going on about his missing Finch. And he keeps clutching this bag, this is like old leather-bound bag, and it goes everywhere with him. If you're getting where I'm going when it comes to the smell, his missing bird, and the bag, you don't have to be House to deduce the source of the smell. I guess that provided some moments of levity. The interactions he has with his receptionist are pretty humorous, because she ends up going to like get like aromatherapy candles, hence the title, to get things to just make the office smell better when this dude's in there. Even the old dude's responses would be like, I know what it is, I know I smell horrible. Like, just that old blithering Cockney accent that I just enjoy in BBC stuff. Would this be something I'd watch regularly? Maybe from the start, if the first series drew me in, perhaps, because going in again with zero context as to the relationships between characters or the ongoing narrative, if there is an ongoing narrative, or if he's just solving the local health mysteries like House would. Maybe I'd invest in it a little bit more, perhaps. There's apparently some, I guess, romantic tension between him and this lady, that her another potential love interest, like one of her old childhood friends, comes back to town, and that's where we open up on, is he's actually being a guest on the radio host's show, and he looks like a well-tanned British Matthew McConaughey. He's like, I guess, competing for this woman's affections, and she apparently still has feelings about Martin, but apparently there might be a whole backstory there that, I mean, I get kind of that there is some tension there, so cool. If I'd started from the beginning of the show, yeah, I could probably see myself investing in this show a little bit. It's not my usual cup of tea, although I do like House, and that does provide some very melodramatic moments mixed in with some humor here and there, just based on the character's demeanor alone. This one, he's obviously a very tamer version of that character in a sense, but he's still got a bit of snark and bite to him in a way. Like, you tell one of his patients isn't taking his prescription, is just getting worse with his allergies or cold or whatever, and because he's paranoid, and a lot of the island folk are very eccentric, I'll give it that. Like, a lot of the eccentricity comes from these back supporting characters, and he's saying like, no, I know the whole scheme, I know that you're being paid by the big drug companies to tell me to take all this stuff, and he's just like, at one point Martin just has it with him, and he's on the phone about the radio host who's actually dying actively, and he just tells the guy to shut up. He's like, no, not you, patient. And so there's a little bit of that snark and bite that you'd expect from something like House, perhaps. It's pretty tame. I mean, I could see this has like a mature rating on it, apparently, on Netflix, but I don't really see why. Nothing really mature happened in this episode, or nothing really too adult happened in this episode. For a while, it did seem kind of like a back-to-school special about, like, you should give up drinking. It seemed like a pretty tame, lighthearted drama with a little bit of levity mixed in here and there. So, I mean, if you're a fan of that, I'm sure you'd have a good time with this series. I might check out an episode here or there. Apparently, this has still been going strong ever since 2004, and it's only got 6 series out there, with a 7th or 8th one on the way, I guess, in 2017. So apparently it's still going pretty strong. I'm surprised I haven't heard of this show before, but I think it played on like PBS or something like that. Doc Martin, it was watchable. It's way better than Gossip Girl or Men with Kids, or whatever that Anthony Anderson garbage that I saw for the first episode. Way better than A Turtle Christmas. That should be the quote to go on this series. Doc Martin, way better than We Wish You a Turtle Christmas.